cold as a razor blade.
Another episode of the Snake Pit, and of course, I'm joined by the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, the inventor, creator, master of the DDT, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake, what's going on, dude?
Trying to enjoy this beautiful weather.
Is it pretty nice down there in Atlanta right now?
Oh, absolutely.
What's the temperature like there?
Probably 65, 70.
I'm jealous, dude. Still pretty chilly up my way.
You should be.
One of these days, I'll talk the wife into moving down there. I doubt it. I'm gonna be shoveling snow when I'm in my 70s, brother.
Well, that was that 10 years from now.
Oh, come on! I'm still a young guy. A lot of the wrestlers now that I work with, they'll be like, "Hey, so how old are you?" And I'm like, "I'm in my 30s. Let's just leave it at that. In my 30s."
Yeah, 39. 39.
No, not quite there yet. But one of them asked what year I was born. I said 86, and they were like, "Oh," I'm like, "Come on, it's not that bad." But man, we're not talking about 86 this week. This week, we are talking about your 1987 and, of course, your babyface turn, which is what's going to be the major, huge topic of the period. And Jake, I can't wait to get into it. But before we get to today's topic, I wanted to get your thoughts on something that's kind of helped form our discussion a little bit during this time in your career. As we record this just a few days ago, longtime babyface, fan favorite, and maybe most importantly, the guy who did the most Make-A-Wishes of all time and was a top merch seller, John Cena, has done the unthinkable. After 21 years, he turned heel, joining forces with The Rock. And Cody turned down an offer from the final boss, and he said, go fuck yourself on live pay-per-view to The Rock. So, of course, we're talking about January 87, and this is going to talk, it ties in perfectly with your babyface run. So, first of all, before we talk about John Cena, Jake, I've got to get your take on it. Cody, without exaggeration, literally did say on live pay-per-view in a packed arena, go fuck yourself to The Rock. What do you think about dropping an F-bomb during a promo?
There's no need for it.
No?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you could have said drop dead or anything, I mean, you just want to, the big thing is he's saying no,
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. He could have flipped him off.
Could have had the same effect with the middle finger.
Right. But for your kids that are watching, go fuck yourself is kind of strong.
That's where I kind of draw the line too, is I know that there were probably a lot of young kids who absolutely love Cody Rhodes that were in the crowd and watching on pay-per-view. And when your hero says that, all of a sudden it feels like it might be okay for them to go to school and say it.
Sure.
So I'm with you there. A little bit too much. Now, John Cena, as I mentioned, he hasn't worked as a heel since his earliest days in the company when he was the doctor of thugonomics was his gimmick. Obviously, there will be a lot of disappointed kids and lifelong John Cena fans that have never seen him as anything other than a superhero. So, Jake, after 2 decades on the marquee as one of the most beloved wrestlers in WWE history, do you think that the time was right for a heel turn for Cena's final year as an active wrestler?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Sure, why not?
All right. And what makes you feel that way? Just the time for it?
Well, it's time for it for a couple of reasons. Number one, Cody's your top babyface now.
Mm.
So you got to get those other guys out of there. So he's the only one. And to turn him heel, he's going to wind up putting Cody over. Which is what they want.
Like a passing of the torch moment.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is all strategic. It's okay. Cody's our guy now. He's who we're riding with. Let's get the old guard to come back, turn the audience against them, and put Cody over.
Right.
I like it. Now, Jake, as a side note, did you ever get to spend any time around John Cena?
No.
Never?
No.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I figured like 2005, whenever you came in, or 2006, something like that, you may have been around him.
No, not really.
Well, now, last question, then we'll move on to our topic. You know, people say all the time that performers like Hogan, Austin, The Rock, etc., had this certain intangible it factor to them, where you just look at them and you're like, that guy's a star. They have a mic in their hand, they've got it. When you would see John Cena's work or his promo ability, obviously he was on top during a time when the business was really down. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault, but what's your opinion, Jake? Did he have the it factor like those other guys?
I don't think he did.
Really?
I don't feel it, man. Nothing personal, but I just always struggled with him.
You're obviously one of the greatest minds ever in the history of wrestling. And folks, if you didn't listen to the 6 Feet Under podcast with Jake, go out of your way to check it out. Most recently, this past week, it was Jake and DDP on the 6 Feet Under podcast. And both DDP and Taker were putting you over as one of the greatest minds in the history of wrestling. I think most people would agree with that notion. So, Jake, when you see John Cena and you see, okay, he doesn't have the it factor like these other guys, is there anything specific that you can put your finger on that he might be missing?
Not really.
Mm.
Just doesn't have that magic in him, man. You know, his interviews are okay, and his work was good, very good, but he didn't have that oomph. And he
So that
hard. He had to work really hard.
So that intangible, like it's that thing that you can't really describe about somebody. That it factor just didn't. He wasn't ringing all the bells for you.
Nope.
I appreciate your honesty, Jake. I think a lot of guys would kayfabe that, but you're just out here telling it like it is, and I appreciate it.
Again, it's nothing personal.
No,
Just my own opinion. You know, my opinion's got to count somewhere.
I certainly think so.
Doesn't
Well, all right. So they're on the road to WrestleMania. And speaking of the road to WrestleMania, it's time for our main topic of the show, January 87. Jake, as we discussed several weeks ago, following the program with Ricky Steamboat, you were slated to enter into a program with Hulk Hogan. However, you know, a series of events, things that are out of your control, maybe even out of Hogan's control a little bit, didn't really work out. And so even though you were being presented as a heel up to this point, fans were starting to cheer for you. And it's just different territory, same result as always when it comes to you. Jake, this is one of those unique circumstances where the company ordinarily decides, here's our baby faces, here's our heels, and they're gonna cheer for who we want them to cheer for. Not in this instance. Much like Daniel Bryan, you just got over whether they wanted you to get over or not. So Jake, from your perspective, how important is it to have this kind of a grassroots organic support from the audience?
Well, it can be the death of you.
Mm-hmm.
It cost me a lot. It cost me that run with Hogan, and that was going to be my money in the bank thing.
Yep.
But it just didn't happen, man. And the fans are the reason.
Gotta love them because they love you, but yeah, it's that immediate money maybe didn't come. Now, one interesting angle, you know, I've talked to you before about, well, did the merch balance with it? Not quite. You didn't make all that money back, but here's another way to look at it is right now at this stage, early 1987, you are right on the verge of becoming a household name.
Yeah.
And do you feel that it was the babyface turn, the merch, the were critical factors in your status, or do you feel that you would have become a household name as a heel?
Yes, I would have.
Okay.
Yeah. I was unique. You know, my interviews, nobody could touch them.
Mm-hmm.
And I made you think. I made you talk. You know, I was the topic of many water coolers, you know.
Yes.
On Monday mornings. And it just goes to show you, you know, the strength of you is what comes back to you. And regardless of what I wanted, the fans did not want it. They wanted to cheer for me. Even if I was an asshole, they still wanted to cheer for me.
Yep.
And they still do. And I'm still an asshole.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Fast forward to 1991, 1992, you're running around with the Cobra and you're being fucking evil all the time on TV, but the fans love you anyways.
Still cheer me.
Yep. Still love Jake. So I think you're right. I think regardless, it's this household name status was coming.
Yeah, it goes to that saying I used to say, better to cheer than it is to fear.
Ah,
And that was the whole thing. They didn't want to be afraid of me.
it's hard to dislike a guy who has that kind of conviction to him where he's like, I'm making this strong, I'm carrying around this Cobra. I don't give a fuck who it bites. Just like this. I don't know, man. It's again that intangible it factor.
Better to fear than to cheer, or better to cheer than to fear.
I love it. That might be the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, to open up the month of January, you're on a West Coast loop, and guess who you were working? Billy Jack Haynes, who was in the news maybe about a year ago. On the 2nd, you and Haynes wrestled on the Hogan card in front of 19,000 fans in Tacoma, Washington at the Tacoma Dome. Jake, you're going to do 3 total matches with Billy Jack on this little run, and 2 of them are going to end in a draw, and 1 is going to end with him winning by DQ. As a reminder, Jake is absolutely red fucking hot during this period. Billy Jack Haynes, nothing against the guy. I've never met him, but he was not really hot during this period. But
No,
and I don't think he ever got hot. And you guys are splitting decisions, and of course, it's because you're in the part of the fucking country that he comes from.
yep.
Jake, what did you think of this whole thing in wrestling, where if you're close to a guy's hometown or whatever, he doesn't lose?
I think it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit. This is a business, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
You can't change a finish because a guy lives there or he's in his home country.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Brett. You just don't do it.
Crazy that that's a thing, and that like anybody, like the agents or whoever behind the scenes, could be talked into it. There's this really infamous story about Pierre Carl Ouellet in 1995. It was before you made your return to the company. He wanted to go over against WWF champion Diesel because they were in Canada. And Kevin Nash essentially was like, I'm not fucking showing up to this if I have to put over this fucking pirate, because that was his gimmick. He was a pirate.
Yeah.
He's like, this is stupid. I'm the champion. I'm not doing it. And finally, the company relented. And it's just like, what a silly way to do business.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Well, working up in the Northeast, Jake, got to be interesting. These are secondary cities, fairly small airports, I would imagine. Travel's got to be weird. What can you tell us about working up in like the Tacoma, Washington region?
Tacoma was, it's a big city.
Ah, okay.
It's part of Seattle. You're right there.
So travel wasn't too bad?
No, travel was fine.
Okay, guys, time to talk about America's #1 whole body deodorant. Of course, I am talking about Mando. You guys know how I feel about Mando. I absolutely love this product. And by the way, we all know that summer is coming fast, and summer means heat. Heat means sweat. And that means that you are going to be walking around out there smelling your worst. I know that I certainly am. I live a very active lifestyle, and I need all the help and support I can get when it comes to containing that body odor. That's where Mando comes in, dude. If your balls stink, if your pits stink, if your feet stink, Mando has got you covered, literally head to toe. You can apply Mando absolutely anywhere on your body. It's perfectly safe, and it smells amazing. You guys are going to love it. Just like I do. I'm 100% certain of it. And you guys are going to get a great deal here with our promo code. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day long and control odor for up to 72 hours. All products are baking soda free and paraben free, and you can choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, which, as you guys know, that one is my personal favorite. I think it smells absolutely amazing, and I've been using it non-stop since I first got Mando. They've also got Clover Woods, they've got Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. If you're showering with just soap alone, you're not getting the job done, pal. All right. After 12 hours, you're not going to smell good anymore. With Mando, you're looking at zero odor after 12 hours. And in fact, you're actually going to be smelling pretty great. So look, you can find Mando right now at Walmart or Target, other retailers across the country. But if you want to get a good deal, you've got to go through shopmando.com and use our promo code. Don't wait. Right now, you can go and get the starter pack from Mando. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Again, you guys have got to try that bourbon leather scent. I know that you're really going to love it. And by the way, the starter pack comes with free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners right now, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That $5, by the way, is over 40% off of that starter pack. All you've got to do is use the code SNAKE. It's shopmando.com. It's shopmando.com. Please help us out, support our show. Tell them that we sent you with that promo code SNAKE. You're going to save. You're going to smell fresher, you're going to stay drier, and you're going to boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Well, moving on from the West Coast, you continued working the house shows against George the Animal Steel until January 10th when you took on your old pal, King Kong Bundy. Jake, of course, he'd spent time around Bundy in Georgia and Mid-South, and now he's at a stage where he's gaining the most notoriety of his entire career in the WWF. What can you tell us about working with Big Bundy?
Oh, tons of fun. That's what I used to the stinkiest shoes of any man ever.
No, worse than Vader.
Oh, yes. His shoes were so fucking bad, man. They were so bad that the Road Warriors set them on fire one time. They burned them in the locker room.
How did Bundy react when he came back and his shoes were burnt?
Well, it was the Road Warriors. What's he going to do?
Yeah, you just say, okay, thanks anyways.
He can get mad if he wants to, but he'll look foolish.
Yep. Well, pretty infamously now, there's this Ernie Ladd quote where Ernie used to tease him in Mid-South. Jake, why don't you go ahead and do your impression?
Oh, my God. Bundy, you're nothing but a common thief. You're stealing from Mid-South. You're stealing.
Oh, that's great shit. I mean, of course, the implication is that he's fucking lazy. And look, I personally love King Kong Bundy, but Jake, you got to work with him. What'd you think about working with him?
He was lazy.
He was lazy.
He was fucking lazy, man. That guy could have been a whole lot. He really could have if he just kicked it up a gear.
What is and so obviously when I'd be watching these matches as whatever a kid, I'm not seeing it. So what kind of shit was Bundy doing in the ring where it's like, come on, dude, pick it up?
It's just slow.
Okay.
Slow, and there was nothing to it. He didn't put any drive into anything, man. He was, like I said, he didn't have another gear.
Mm.
You'd think if somebody's wailing on him, that he would fire up, but he wouldn't fire up. He'd just go back to it, man.
Put your opponent in a shitty position because then you're dragging them down with you.
Yeah, it does, man.
Well, the first encounter with Bundy is going to take place in Philadelphia at the Spectrum in front of over 14,000 fans. The match ends in a double count out when the two of you brawled on the floor. Bundy went for his avalanche in the corner, but you moved out of the way, chased him away with Damien. So, on TV, you are not yet a full-fledged babyface. But here at this house show, this is clearly a protected finish that favors you.
Yeah.
So we hear that Philly was a tough crowd and tended to favor heels in these days. How did the Philly crowd treat you, and what type of reactions were you able to get out of them?
They were good to me. They were real good to me.
Even as a babyface?
Yeah. They knew I was a heel.
Okay.
And they were good to me, man. They were with it.
Again, you might be acting as a babyface, but kind of an anti-hero thing to do if you're chasing this motherfucker away with a snake, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can see him getting behind it. You're going to work against Bundy on Superstars before moving on to working against one of the hottest heels in the business at the time. It was Paul Orndorff. Jake, this is to me the clear-cut new path at this point. As soon as you have this match on Superstars, you are a babyface all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
yeah.
So the heel run has come to an end. What do you recall about being approached about this babyface turn?
I didn't want it. I did not want it. But they just told me, look, it's not working out.
Hmm.
It's either we turn you heel or turn you baby face or just start beating you as a heel. So let's go baby face then.
Would it have been Vince or like one of the agents that's having this conversation with you?
Vince.
Okay. It's how do you fight it? And I'm sure that Vince, everybody says you go into Vince's office and you'd hate the idea, but by the time you're walking back out, you've still got the same idea, but you have a smile on your face. Was that
Yeah.
sort of the vibe?
He was a master manipulator, man.
Gotta give him that.
You know, he can make chicken soup out of chicken shit too.
I mean, I was just having this conversation with somebody recently where they were saying that, it was after the Undertaker podcast. Somebody had listened to it and they said, "Well, Taker said that Jake was the greatest heel of all time," and I have to agree, he was. And I said, "I agree with that, but like his babyface stuff was really good shit, you know." You and I talked about it before with the kind of sympathy you were able to get with, the earthquake squishing Damien, and you're getting blinded by Martel, and all these great angles. So I mean, I don't know. It's a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Yeah, I was able to pull it off, man. You know, and I credit that to just believing
Hmm.
in whatever you're doing. You know, if they've got you doing something silly, don't look at it like that. Look at it as a shoot, and look at it as, hey, this is really happening. So let's give it that emotion. You got to, man. You know, it's like whenever Earthquake squished Damien, the original finish was to me get knocked out of the ring, and then Earthquake would squash Damien while I was down.
Hmm.
I wouldn't even see it. And I vetoed that. I said, hell no, man. I said, if you want heat, you need to put me in the ring, tie me in the ropes, and make me watch it.
Yep.
That's the real heat.
And I'll tell you what, it was an iconic moment, and everybody talks about, okay, yeah, the hamburger and the blood that was left in the ring. To me, the most indelible thing, whenever I think about it, is the look on your face whenever this is happening.
The way I sold it is what got that over.
Well, you're on this new path here as a baby face, and boy, some good memories ahead. But I do think it's worth noting that Orndorff at this time was drawing huge money with Hogan everywhere they went, and your matches with him are ending in a double countout, which of course protects the both of you.
Yeah.
Wrestling fans have been told over the years that Orndorff is a legit tough guy and consummate professional inside and outside the wrestling ring. Here, he's coming off the most visible run of his career. What did you think of Mr. Wonderful as a wrestler and as a guy?
Paul was great, man. He was great. I never had a problem with Paul. We always got along well. Mid South, we got along well. WWF, we got along great. He was a professional, man.
Mhm.
I miss him. It's a shame that he's gone.
He's a good man, and I mentioned it, a legit tough guy. There's a story that's become wrestling legend of him not just beating the shit out of Vader in 1995, but beating the shit out of him while wearing flip-flops.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, pretty impressive shit. Did you ever see Paul's tough guy side in person?
No, I didn't.
Apparently, he
No, I
was a
didn't.
force to be reckoned with, dude.
I believe it.
Well, outside the WWF, it's reported that Jim Duggan has been released from his UWF contract with Bill Watts, and of course, he's going to arrive in the WWF before WrestleMania 3. I just spoke to Jim. I just recorded with him just now, and he referenced how you were the one who contacted him and said, "Hey, you got to make the jump up here." What did you think about your buddy coming into the WWF? And did you think the whole like rough and tough brawler Jim Duggan was going to fit in this world?
Oh yeah, because Jim's got that it factor, man.
Yeah,
He's not a pretty boy. That's for sure.
he's not.
He's not a great wrestler,
No.
but he's got that it factor. And he's believable.
There it is.
He is believable. He is a tough guy. Tough guy.
That was no gimmick. Jim Duggan's tough as nails. So, Jake, now I want to go on to one of my favorite things that we do on the show, and that's discuss people that we will likely never talk about again. First up is Corporal Kirshner. You'll work with him on January 21st, 87, and the rumor around him was that he was considered one of the stiffest wrestlers in the company at the time, which apparently hurt his career, and they actually knocked him down to an enhancement guy as a result of enough guys complaining about him. Any memories of this guy?
He was reckless, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, he got me a couple of times. But I got it.
Okay, so you're feeding it back to him.
Yeah, I gave it back to him.
Was he an asshole or just green?
No, just green.
Okay.
Nice guy.
Good look.
Nice guy. Good look. Good gimmick.
And he was like a legit Army paratrooper, something like that. So it's like good, cool gimmick, good look. It's like, man, if he could have put the pieces together, he probably would have had a great run.
Well, he had the same issue I did, man. He had that he liked his cocaine.
You know what? I think I did hear that he got popped on a drug test and they wanted to suspend him. And he was like, how about I just fucking quit?
Yeah.
So is what it is. Only other guy that we'll do this week, and it's again another guy I doubt if we'll talk about again. It's Tony Gurria, and you're going to work with him here in January 87, and he's going to retire later that same year and become a road agent. Jake, I've heard some things about Tony over the years. You have any good Tony Gurria stories?
No, I don't.
You have any bad Tony Gurria stories?
I did not get along with Tony. I can't, for reasons I can't discuss.
Ah, okay. We'll kayfabe it. And I won't have you say anything, but I'll just say this. Rumor has it that Tony Gurria was a fucking prick and an office stooge. I only met him once, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it. We'll leave it right there. I won't make it go into further detail. All right, we're at the finish line here, and Jake, we're gonna wrap up by talking about your encounter with Hogan. As we discussed on our previous WWF episode, you and Hulk were set to feud, but the plans changed when you became overwhelmingly popular with the audience. When you hit Hulk with the DDT in that lost episode of the Snake Pit, the segment was only shown in the Providence and Winnipeg markets to plug the upcoming events. The Providence match takes place at the end of this month in the Civic Center, 6,900 fans in attendance. Hogan's going to go over clean. So what did you think about the company honoring this advertising and still getting this match in the ring, despite you now being a full-fledged babyface on TV?
Well, it worked out. It got what they wanted out of it. That was one of my bitches was that both shows that we did were sellouts. And fuck, what are you going to do? We're selling out. But they just did not want the fans chanting DDT, DDT.
And it's funny to me that their solution is like, boy, this is a really hot feud, but we can't have somebody outshine Hogan, so why don't we just go ahead and turn Jake babyface? Where like in reality, it's like, think about, they could like if it would have been you and Hogan at WrestleMania 3, obviously he had Andre and it was a huge moment.
Yeah.
But if it would have been you and Hogan at WrestleMania 3, and this is like a big buildup, man, it could have really been something.
It could have been something, man.
Well, we will be talking about WrestleMania 3 here as WrestleMania season closes in. That's going to wrap us up for this week. And Jake, I appreciate your time as always. Really interesting to hear you talk about 1987, my friend.
Yeah, bro. Let's do it again sometime.
Okay, guys, we're wrapping up the show. But before we go, got to remind you that if you're looking to attract that 25 to 54-year-old male demographic to your product or service, you've got to hit advertisewithsnake.com. Jake is still out there doing it, man, hitting the towns. on TV, meeting fans, and when he talks, people listen. So why not get the legendary Jake the Snake Roberts to put over your product or service to that exact demographic? If you want some proof that it works, just listen to our show. We routinely advertise for the same businesses because they know that what we do here works. Head to advertisewithsnake.com. Make Jake the Snake Roberts your tag team partner. Cameo.com/Jake Snake is the place if you want a personal message from Jake Roberts, if you want a birthday wish, or if you want Jake, the greatest promo in the history of wrestling, to cut a promo just for you. It all happens over at Cameo.com, and here's a recent review from Anonymous. This was the best decision of my life. Perfection. Thanks, Jake. I mean, short and sweet, but not a whole lot more needs to be said. Go and look at the reviews over at Cameo.com/Jake Snake and find out for yourself. All of the reviews are great. Jake puts a ton of effort into these. He knows what fans want, and he always delivers. Again, it's Cameo.com/Jake Snake. Order yours today. Check Jake and I out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. We've got some short, bite-sized clips from the show and highlights. We've got some exclusive podcasts over there. We've got that exclusive episode with Baby Doll, which gave more context on Jake's time in WCCW. And believe me, the gears are turning on other ways that we can get more context and more story behind the story, so to speak, on Jake and what he was doing and some of the stories that we've discussed here. So the only place to get all that is over at youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. Does Jake and I a big favor. Get over there and get subscribed. Hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any awesome new videos that we're putting out, and enjoy all the wonderful content that Jake and I have up there. If you've enjoyed the Snake Pit, please do us a big favor. Like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review on all platforms. Does Jake and I a massive favor and only takes you a couple minutes. So seriously, if you can do it, please just take a couple seconds, help Jake and I out, give us that 5-star review, and let's keep chugging here on the Snake Pit. Catch Jake on X at Jake Snake DDT, on Instagram at Jake the Snake DDT, and on Facebook at Real Jake the Snake. You can follow me and drop your questions at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X. All right, guys, that is going to do it. Another really fun episode in the books. Boy, there is a lot to talk about when it comes to Jake's 1987. We haven't even gotten into talking about him with Alice Cooper. Of course, WrestleMania 3 is coming up, one of the biggest events in wrestling history, and Jake was a big part of it. There's so much left to talk about. I can't wait to get into 1987. So be on the lookout for a new episode about it here coming up later this month. And be on the lookout next week, as Jake and I are going to be talking about Florida 1982. Finally, we're getting to the Santa Claus angle there. So it's going to be an amazing episode. So make sure you don't miss it. Tune in next week right here on The Snake Pit.